Well, we were in Seattle, and we were going to fly over. And I was with a group of my friends, people we trained with, and they put me in the hospital. I had a fever. I had tonsillitis, I think it was. It's no big deal. It's just I had a fever, and so I was ready to go, and I didn't feel all that bad. But they stuck me in the hospital, which is the sort of thing they do. And so I was in the hospital when I heard over the radio that Roosevelt had died. And so I got up and was running down the hospital saying, Roosevelt has died. The nurse said, get back in that bed. What are you doing? And then she realized what I was talking about, and so everybody, there was all a lot of excitement about that. Because he was a big, it's interesting how people looked on Roosevelt then and how they look on him now, but that's a whole different story. But he was our man, our leader. So anyway, I stayed there for a while, and then I had to fly. My friends had all left, and I thought, when things like that happen, you get separated, you get into another bunch, and you never get back together again. That was the thing about the service. It was very difficult to stay with any given person or people for over an extended period of time. Things we would shift around, and first thing you know, you're in this bunch rather than that sort. So I figured that would be one of those deals. But anyway, they flew us over in just a regular transport plane. And we flew first to Johnson Island. And we were flying along, we started going down. I was looking out the window. I thought, we're ditching, because there was nothing but water. And we were about ready to hit the water, I thought. And then there was the land. I mean, the airstrip obviously came very close to the water. But anyway, there we were. And then we, of course, flew on down to New Guinea. And bless best if they didn't put me with my friends again. So that was good. But then we soon split up, mostly. Because what they did there, we were at Nadzab, in the middle of the, what was the name of that river? The Owen Stanley Mountains, and I don't know. Anyway, by a river. It was Nadzab, the name of the base. And they had us flying P-47s, and there were also 51s there for people that we were training, to fly 47. They were trained to fly 51s. And so we were flying these planes, and these planes would run out of oil before they ran out of gas, because they were really in bad. They were constantly flying them every minute with all these people there, and they were real clunkers. And what would happen is that you'd take off from there, and the minute you took off, somebody would jump you, and you were in a dogfight. And that just, that was the routine. So I took off one time, and two 51s jumped me. And so we got to doing this sort of thing. And one of the 51s broke off. The other one, though, stayed with me, but we weren't very high anyway, but he kept losing altitude. And I was keeping up with it, and I know this, that a 47 will turn with a 51. People may not be familiar with the myths that surround these airplanes, but that you tell somebody who think they know about the 51 and the 47, that it surprises them that when I say that a 47 will turn with a 51, and it will. But you got to know what you're doing. See, the thing is that the 47, you'll hit in any plane, you can hit what they call a high-speed stall. If you're turning too hard, it loses, and it starts shuddering. The 47 will start shuddering, so you back off, and you keep it from shuddering too much so that you know where you are in terms of the maximum turn that it will make. And the 51 doesn't do that. I found that out later, too. The 51 will fly smoothly into a stall and snap. And there you are, you know. Well, that's what happened with this guy. And we were doing this sort of thing, and I saw him. I said, what? He looked like he was doing a roll. I said, we're too low for that sort of stuff. But he wasn't rolling. He had snapped. And he snapped and spun in and hit right in the river. And of course, here I am flying like this, and I was about to, you know, I was so distracted, I almost stalled out because, you know, I was looking down to see whether there was any parachute or anything. And I was, you know, I had to get out of that, and I did, and went on back and landed and reported and so forth. But you know, crazy stuff like that happened. You didn't have to have an enemy shooting at you to be in trouble. And that one has, you know, haunted me ever since. So, and then they had sent representatives from the different squadrons, and they would come in and pick people to come and join their squadrons to fill out their rosters. And so I went up and I joined the 411th. And one of the things that happened there of note is that they were flying a group of our people, including some of my tent mates, to pick up new airplanes. They had that sort of thing went on all the time, and this was from when we were in Okinawa, and they went over to Iwo Jima, and when they had the plane, it was a B-24, and they had bomb bays. And over the bomb bays, they had put 2x4s and plywood sheets, and on top of that, they put seats so that they could haul people rather than bombs. And they got over Iwo Jima, and the pilot, I think, wanted to show these hot shot fighter pilots that that he was a hot pilot too. And so he racked it up into a tight turn to come around for it. Normally the bombers go, you know, way on around and make a very slow turn and a slow pattern, a big wide pattern. Fighters are coming in the meantime in the middle, you know. But anyway, I think he was caught up in that sort of idea. The 2x4 slipped, the plywood gave away, and there were 4 seats here and 4 seats here. And one of my tent mates left and went up to talk to somebody up ahead. So there were only 3 of them here and 4 over here. These 4 guys fell out. These 3 made it, but one of my tent mates was hanging on to the edge, looking out, watching these people drop down. And they bombed the edge of the runway there in Iwo Jima. So, you know, you never knew. Just a simple little old ferrying trip like that. Another ferrying trip. But we had trained this trip that I was telling you about earlier, where we went to Minnesota and so forth. We were trained to the certain settings on the prop control and the mixture seemed to be and I'm very rusty on this. It's been 60 years ago, so I don't remember. But you set them in a counterintuitive way, it seems, in order to conserve fuel. But it would foul of spark plugs, but you could get much greater distance out of your fuel supply. Well, we'd been trained in that, our little group, as we went through training. Well, some of the people in that group that I was with, they went down to New Guinea to ferry airplanes back up to the Philippines. Well, after the point of no return, when you're flying, there comes a time when you've got to go on to or you can't go back, at least with the kind of fuel that we had and the kind of planes we had. There was often a point of no return where you just can't go back. You don't have enough fuel. It's past the halfway point. You've got to go on. Well, they hit a front, and of course, weather reports were practically non-existent out there. Didn't know what to face. So we hit a front, and these things were real fronts. I mean, you can't go over them. If you do, you use up all your fuel, and you're not going to get anywhere. You can't go around them. They're too widespread. And to go under them is very, very dubious, in some cases impossible, because all that weather is right down on the water, and great turmoil and so forth. You can't go through them because some of these downdrafts and updrafts pass each other at, well over 300 miles an hour, and they can just flip a fighter plane helter-skelter. There was that was not the option. So this I think it was a squadron of some 40-some planes reached one of these situations, and the leader said, "Well, you're on your own." Said, pick make your choice and take your chances, because there's nothing else that I can do for you. So these guys that I had trained with turned around and went back, and they were able to make it back in the traditional flying on fumes sort of thing, but they made it back, and they were the only ones that survived that out of that 40-some planes. I think there were 3 of them that made it back.